Hello and welcome to the third episode of Next Stop, where we're checking in with the West Liberty University campus community and helping make further connections to the Hilltop Nation. And we've been focusing a lot recently on COVID-19 and its impact on higher education and West Liberty University specifically. And I don't think there's a more appropriate place to land than in the world of human resources. So today we have our Chief Human Resources Officer, Diana Harto, and our Human Resources Generalist Senior, Brian Schamp. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks for having
me. Jason.
So we're just going to start right off, and I would like for you guys to describe the world of HR at West Liberty University pre-COVID, and then talk about the dramatic shift that you had to make when the pandemic started to make its presence known. So go ahead, Diana.
Sure. Well, pre-COVID, we were hiring and meeting with employees and working on initiatives like our performance evaluations and onboarding and working on some training for our employees on things like preventing discrimination and harassment and data security for students and employees, and just your typical walk across campus, meet for lunch, see colleagues all across campus. And then the COVID hit, and it was a dramatic turnaround to deploy our faculty and staff into a completely different work environment. And I have to say that our employees, our faculty, our staff, our administrators, everybody just has really stepped up. I mean, it has been remarkable what we've accomplished in that quick week or two turnaround, where our faculty are 100% online. Our employees the majority are working remotely. So our contact with employees, managers, supervisors are learning to manage remote teams when they've never done that before. But with positive attitudes. I've not heard complaints. Of course you have some confusion and some miscommunication and things like that, but our employees are learning a whole new way to work. I have some background in remote work, I did that for 3 to 4 years across the US. And so this is not new to me, but it's new to a lot of people. And our deans and our chairs and our employees have just really stepped up. But how it has changed for HR, specifically our team meetings, our Zoom meetings, through video conferencing, chatting in the Google Hangout on the side, or maybe a FaceTime, maybe a text, which we used to text all the time anyway, when you're running around campus in different meetings. But the focus turned to COVID-19. The focus came to what is this regulation about? What do we have to do? How do we keep our employees healthy? And but I'll stop there for a minute because you look like you had a question.
I do. I just you briefly touched on the makeup of our entire employee family. Approximately how many employees do we have, and what kind of different segments are they in? Because it's pretty diverse.
We probably, I'll say roughly 160 plus on the staff side. And we probably have about 150 on the faculty side. And then we also have, in addition to that, probably near 100 adjuncts, which are temporary instructors for us too. So we have, for our regular base, about 310, 315.
And prior to COVID-19, some faculty were teaching online classes, but in terms of employees working remotely, really there's no precedent. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. In fact, we didn't typically or historically have support for people working remotely because it wasn't seen as something that was tangible, doable, that it would be successful, that we really wanted people on campus. So there might have been a very tiny population based on a case by case because of something, their personal circumstance where we were able to work remotely, but on a dime. We turned in a week and a half and were able to get our employees the equipment they needed and change the processes, and we're being very successful at it.
Yes, that I agree. As an employee, I agree. Brian, are there any? Do you look back at the tools that you've implemented and the new ways of coaching, managing, using online tools? Do you look back and think that you feel kind of grateful that you went through that process because now they might be more relevant in a remote setting? And what describes some of those tools?
It's kind of funny how that works out. So I think the transition from a standard manual paper process from a review perspective to more of an automated virtual type system and process has really pushed us forward in what we need to do from some of the old outdated process that we've had in place in the past. So yeah, I think from a perspective of the employee sitting at home, working from home, us being able to accomplish the review process, we're in a whole much better place now than what we were, had we not implemented something like this. So that process, just as a reminder for those that are watching and listening, that process is actually going to kick off on Monday. So 4/20 is going to be the opening of the window for employees to go in and update their information in the system. So I'm anxious to see, how employees navigate through the system, what their feedback is, the responses that we've received up to this point from those that tested, to those that have had access to the process. All of those have been positive. So, we're really looking forward to that window opening on Monday.
Awesome. And let's focus on the now and describe the today's day-to-day of HR. What kind of things are you guys addressing, working on?
So I guess for me, and I'll go first on that one. So for me, it's business as usual. Nothing has really changed for me other than my environment. So the flow of information, the requests, the calls, the texts, the Zoom meetings, all of that is, nothing has really changed from a volume perspective. We're right smack dab in the middle of benefit open enrollment, which means that we've got system activity for enrollment. We've also got people filling out paper forms that we now have to figure out how we're going to collect those and get those into the vendor. So that has been somewhat of a challenge, but, from my perspective, it's not really changed too much. I try to go into the office once a week in order to catch up on those things that, I simply can't do from my home. But there's really been no delay or any type of, from our perspective, any type of delay in what we need to get done on a daily basis.
And Diana, anything to add to that?
Sure. One of the things that with the COVID-19 piece, we're staying up on those regulations, and that the interpretation of it changes daily. And so depending on what the governor comes out to say and what the president comes out to say and what we hear from HEPC or what we hear from, Dr. Greiner and how we're addressing things, that is constantly moving. And I really appreciate the fact that we have General Counsel, Stephanie Hooper, and I have, we talk almost every day, most of the day, working through whether it's an individual circumstance. I have to say that we are pretty blessed in that we have not had a positive test for COVID. I don't want to jinx us by saying that, but for any faculty or staff. But we have had different circumstances to work through for requests for leave of absence for reasons that fall under that First Families Care Act. And so we've been interpreting that and working through individually with Stephanie and with the employees. The CHROs from across the state, we share information ongoing about what is Fairmont doing, what is WVU doing, what's Shepherd doing, well, what's West Liberty doing? We, people reach out all the time, and the community colleges as well. So they have been good partners, just looking at different resources, whether it's CUPA or Department of Labor, and like I said, legal. That has definitely taken up most of my time while we still continue to do our day-to-day operations. But even PEIA has provided updates, and Brian has shared those with employees. TIA, for retirement, with the volatility of the market, and Brian's communicated that. So we try to keep up with the resources as best we can through updating the website on COVID and working with the CERT team. I know that Scott Cook is a part of that team and working on updating our website and those kinds of things. So that's all been very different. And I have to give props to Jeremy Lawrence for all of his work with Zoom, and to Joe Rodella for, putting that into place so quickly, because our team started using that immediately. And in fact, I hosted the Upper Ohio Valley SHRM chapter yesterday, Bradley Schaefer's attorney locally. And so all of the representatives from different HR departments around the tri-state here were invited. And so we hosted that, West Liberty and myself, because we had the license and were able to do that. So that's, a different kind of thing, and a positive. Now, behind the scenes, what we're still working on, as Brian already mentioned a couple of them, we're still hiring. Sean Muzarakis is still working on onboarding people and doing that remotely. We have somebody coming, I won't say who yet because it's still in the process, but a new employee starting at the end of the month. So that'll be announced soon. And he's processing resumes and all of the job postings we have right now. He's still working on the affirmative action program that's due May 1st. And one of the things I've been working with Kate Billings on is our new vendor with EverFi. We used to have workplace answers for our prevention of harassment and discrimination, our Title IX, Clery, and all those things, FERPA. Well, we have a new vendor and who purchased or acquired our old one, and we've been communicating that ongoing. But that training is going to be rolling out here in the next week or so. This is a good time while we're remote. For the majority of our folks. We still have our critical employees on campus, but we'll extend the deadline to complete those through June 30. So that'll give everybody plenty of time. And it will include data security that Rodella has reviewed and signed off on. And it will include the harassment, discrimination prevention, Title IX. We'll have one for supervisors and one for non-supervisors. But those are just some of the things that are still going on behind the scenes, even amidst the COVID stuff for HR. And of course, we have Sherry Beckett still on our team. She's doing all of the OASIS entries and processing behind the scenes for us. And Sal, Anthony Salatino, is still part of the human resource team, health and safety. I think Sal just sent something out today. And he has provided a lot of online training for our maintenance team. And so he's on campus, still doing his inspections and still taking care of all of those things. He's doing a great job.
How's Sal doing on Zoom? Because I'd like to interview him.
We were talking about Zoom today, and he has that fixed up, and he's attending Zoom meetings. So yes,
Okay.
he would be a great person to review during all of this, because he's got a different perspective.
And Diana, you there was one you talked about you're still hiring, but there was a significant hiring process that we had to delay. Can you talk about the presidential search and what happened with that?
Yes, for sure. If things had worked out, we would have already identified or been identifying the new presidential candidate this month, probably, or the board would have been looking at that and getting ready to approve that the next meeting. But because our candidates couldn't come to campus to interact with faculty and staff, that was a board decision. And that was important to the board, and they know it was important to campus, because really we did get the approval from the HEPC. They exempted on-campus visits for presidential candidates, so we could have hired somebody and allowed Zoom meetings with faculty and staff.
Wow.
But it was very important to Rich Lucas, our chairman, and to the rest of the board, and that those candidates have personal contact on campus with all of the governing bodies, including faculty, staff, and students. So that has been delayed, and I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe we have 4 candidates, 4 top candidates that agreed to stay with us through the process and wait until fall, when everybody's back on campus, to start scheduling those things again. But the silver lining in that is that Dr. Greiner has agreed to stay on as president until that happens, I think through September.
September 2021, right?
Yeah, maybe.
We'll hold him to that.
For sure.
Brian, as far as managing goes, and coaching in a remote setting, we have such a diverse, in terms of job descriptions. We have people who are responsible for plumbing, people who are responsible for teaching music, food service, all the whole gamut. So there's really no structure that you can find online, and when you're not with someone in person, it's different. So what kind of tips can you give to managers to help keep things moving in their departments? Maybe alternative things people could do, creative things.
So, I think the key to the whole process is you have got to make sure that you have communication channels open. So many times we're challenged with getting information to people, getting feedback to people, that, we need to just ensure that the tools that we have at our disposal we're utilizing in order to open up the communication with our employees. It doesn't change, the type of message that we're delivering to the employee, but what's changing is how we deliver it, through what method we deliver that message. So I would just encourage people to continue to have that open dialogue with their employees, continue to provide the feedback, that they've always provided up to this point. And I think that, nothing's really changing other than how we're administering or delivering these messages and feedback to our employees. So I would just encourage people to keep those channels open.
The one thing I would add to that is that for us, and for many others, it's not different. But for some of our managers and supervisors, it's completely different. Maybe they're not used to having a one-on-one discussion, or maybe they're not used to a remote atmosphere. But I agree with Brian, the communication, and it's not just with your manager, but communicate with your coworkers and your colleagues and your friends. We're all social distancing and we're trying to stay separate, but it doesn't mean we need to break our communication. I would go stir crazy if I didn't have Zoom and chat and all of these things. It's just me and the cat. And Bella's sitting in the window now looking outside. She doesn't talk very much. But the video conferencing and the Zooming is really helpful too, because if you think about it, if you're working remotely and you don't have the video occasionally, some people aren't getting dressed. Some people are working in their pajamas or not getting a routine. And I think that, I've been reading a lot, and people are experiencing anxiety and depression and that too much distance. So while we're focusing on work and how to accomplish that, still focus on the people and how to connect and check in on your folks. How are you doing? What's your day look like today? How was yesterday? And what'd you have for dinner last evening? It doesn't just have to be about work.
Yeah,
I think.
Go ahead.
Just another thing I'll add there, Jason. I think it's important that we, more than just communicating about business, I think it's important that we touch base with our employees in regards to some of the things Diana mentioned was the mental health. We need to ensure that people are involved in things healthy things, meaning, we just sent out within the last week or so an activity from the American Heart Association that talks about people getting up and moving and walking and those types of things. I think, in this type of environment, we have a tendency to simply just stay put. I mean, we don't get out, we don't walk, we don't do anything. We simply just do the work that we need to do. We sit on the couch, we watch TV, we do those things that are very complacent, where, we need to really encourage, our employees to, not only continue doing what they're doing on a daily basis from a work perspective, but we also need to encourage them to involve themselves in a healthy lifestyle.
I'll just share an experience from as an employee. One of the things I love about West Liberty and working at West Liberty is the family atmosphere, and how, although there are a lot of different kinds of jobs, people talk to each other, get along, stop by, say hi, check in, celebrate birthdays. And for me, although I've learned that I'm not an introvert. I thought I was. I would come home from work in regular life, and my wife has been working from home for 12 years, and she would want to let's be social, let's go. And I would be tired, because working at West Liberty is, partly very social. And so I felt a really big void, and I wasn't really identifying where that was coming from until I was realizing that the Masters was coming up last week, and I was really missing it as a golf fan. And so I called Roger Wiley, who is my golf guru expert, and I asked him if he thought that they were still going to hold it in the fall. And we ended up talking for over an hour and a half, and I felt good again. And I think it was because I just talked to one of my friends at work. I had been missing that. So I think that's important. If employees are out there who are just feeling kind of strange and depressed, or call someone, maybe not even in your department, have a chat.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have done that just occasionally. I'll pick somebody that does use Google Hangout chat because not everybody still does that. but I'll pick somebody out there and just see how their week's going or what they've been up to and how their family is. And it does feel good just to chat with some of your colleagues. It doesn't have to be about work, but we have the tools, so use them to make somebody's day. And that's the thing, you know, is just keeping positive because we are really fortunate. Everybody's working, whether it's remotely or, you know, critical folks are on campus, and everybody's being paid. And for the most part, like I said, we're healthy. And so we have a lot of things to be thankful for. But one of the things, a tip is extra grace and gratitude for each other, because you don't know what everybody's going through personally. You know, sometimes I say this is our mask, right? And, you know, to each other, everybody looks like we've got it together and working well, but you don't know what's going on personally behind that mask. And even just in the day-to-day with work, these are all new tools, and it's a new environment and unprecedented time. So give each other a little grace and gratitude.
Well said. If you could, if all the employees were watching right now, what else would you want to, what kind of messages would you want to send to them? Either of you.
I would want to say, stay healthy, stay well, you know, don't, you've seen the phrase, don't panic, just plan. I think we're all doing exactly what we're asked to do. We're washing our hands, we're social distancing, we're working, we're holding ourselves accountable. Be smart, you know, when you're out and about. I mean, we're all going to the grocery stores and you're going to the gas stations, and support our local businesses when you can. You know, those are just things that I'm trying to do, and I think that we're all trying to do. We really are all in this together. You know, there's not one person that's different from the other. Mm-hmm. But if you are faced with something that you're not sure about and human resource can help out, you know, reach out to us. We're available through the chat, through email. We'll make appointments to come on campus and meet somebody. We've done that. As Brian mentioned, he's going up regularly. I was there last week for some appointments and some business, and we'll try to continue to put resources out there and try to do something different. You know, some of the things I've seen, do something different for your professional growth or for your mental health and well-being. Or while you're working from home, I've been doing a lot of yoga with YouTube. Different exercise that way. Or I've been going over to the school that's close by, you know, to get some walks in, or spiritual growth. Do something new. This is an opportunity that we didn't think we'd see in our lifetime. I didn't think I would, but and you've said it, find the silver linings. You know, it really has stripped us away of all that busyness. How many times have we said in the past, oh, I just don't have time for that. I'm too busy. But now you have time to really slow down. It's just you, your family, your basic needs, and pick up the phone, call somebody you haven't talked to in a while, do something new.
You know, I think for me, Jason, I think the message that I would want to convey is that we need to continue to stay positive. We are just saturated on a daily basis with things that are negative, you know, from a health perspective, from a country perspective, economically. There's so many things that, you know, you flip the TV on and there's always something there that appears to be negative. So I think it's critical for, you know, mental health that we simply reflect upon the good things that are happening on a daily basis, not get tied up in all of this doom and gloom negative talk. We need to focus and really drill down on the things, the accomplishments on a daily basis that are positive.
So the takeaway here is that human resources is nothing has changed. You're still moving forward, but there might be an extra focus on the root of the word. You're a resource for humanity, right? So our employees can reach out to you with any kind of need in this time.
Absolutely. We're here. And if you have suggestions of something, we can't think of everything, but we're all sharing resources. So if an employee wants to see something, please let us know. Shoot us an email, send us a chat message or something, and say, hey, I stumbled onto this. Could you put this on your website? Or this would be a good suggestion. This might be helpful for employees. We're always open to new things, new suggestions.
Awesome. I have one last question. Feel free to add anything more, but how are you supplying employees with candy like you did in the real life at Straw Hall? And what's going on with Topper the bear? Is he still in the office?
Topper, I don't think anybody has fed Topper.
Yeah, might have to call Chief Joe on that one.
That's usually Joe Rodella that takes care of Topper. He typically takes him home and takes care of him. But last time I was in the office, he was still there. So I think he's doing all right.
He's probably okay.
No, I think so.
Don't give Joe Rodella any ideas, Topper.
I know.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time, Diana and Brian. I feel like we could probably check in again in the near future as things continue to move forward and potentially change. But I feel hopefully our employees have a better sense of the resource that they do have. And thank you very much for all that you do.
Thanks, Jason.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. Well.
See ya.